Man, I don't know how Casey Stearns vlogs outside. It's so bright and noisy. And there is a gigantic bee right there. Oh my goodness. Well, it's April 18th, 2019. Blackmagic Design recently announced Resolve version 16. And it looks like they've included some features that's supposed to increase the speed of editing, and really help with the turnaround time for making videos, which is great for people like me who don't have a lot of time to do editing. And it's also great for people with a very tight release schedule, the YouTubers that have a release schedule every day, So it's important to streamline that workflow for people who need that fast turnaround. And I think it's great. I think it's a sign that Blackmagic Design is listening to their user base and trying to cater to them. I, for one, am very excited. I've never been much of a Premiere user. There is a helicopter flying overhead. And I think Blackmagic Design is going to change a lot of people. They're going to get a lot of people to switch. With this recent announcement of Resolve 16, I would go back and talk about what my experiences have been with video editing and what my workflow has been like in the past with older versions of Resolve. I think I'm going to take this indoors because it's getting way too hot out here. All right, so we're back inside now, and it's a lot cooler in here, so we'll finish the rest of our video in here. So I first got into YouTubing back in 2015, and I did it as a way to keep in touch with friends and family because I was moving away for work. And back then, I had iMovie, and I used that for a little while, and that was fine because I was mostly doing videos just on my phone. So I would record a video with my iPhone and then just edit it right then and there on the phone. It was really convenient. I liked that workflow. It works great. But the problem with that is doing scrubbing with your fingers and trying to do cuts with your fingers like that. It's a clumsy system. And so, eventually I thought, well, I have this Sony Alpha 65 camera and it does do video. Why don't I make use of it and get maybe even some better quality videos? But then in order for me to edit footage from my SLR camera, I needed an actual video editing software on my computer. Now at the time I wasn't really willing to pay for video editing software, and certainly not, I don't know however much Premiere costs, but I imagine it's on the order of hundreds of dollars. So I wasn't willing to pay that kind of money, so I looked for free options. And the one that really stood out to me was Blackmagic Design's Davinci Resolve. What sold it to me was that it was apparently a pro-level kind of software used by people in the film industry for color grading, but they've also included features that allow you to do nonlinear editing directly in the program. And I figure, well, it's not like I'm going to do all kinds of fancy stuff in my videos. I just needed to cut and trim and all that stuff. I figured that would be enough. And the fact that it had some pro-level features in there was a bonus. So yeah, that sold it for me, and I signed on to use Davinci Resolve. And at the time, in 2015, we had Davinci Resolve version 12, and that was painful. Version 12 was a very painful experience, and I want to talk about it because it almost turned me off of video making altogether. All right, so let's talk about what life was like when I was using Davinci 12 for video editing. So it was a very solid program. It had tons of features. And I certainly had no issues with any of that stuff. But the problem was that it did not handle the file types that I was using. And that just greatly complicated my workflow. So shooting on the Sony Alpha 65, it produced videos in two possible formats. You could do MP4 or AVC HD. Now MP4 was a crappy quality, so of course I didn't want to use MP4. So naturally I gravitated towards AVC HD, which allowed me to record in 1080p at 60 frames per second. Unfortunately, Davinci Resolve 12 did not support AVC HD fully. When I imported the video clips into Resolve, what I noticed was that the video would work just fine, but the audio track would not work at all. And so that forced me to have to record audio separately. Now, that in and of itself, of course, is not a huge deal because even right now I'm recording audio externally. It's something that people put up with, and I get that, but you know, when you're first starting out, you want things to be simple, and having a external audio recording that you have to sync up to the video afterwards, adding these extra steps can really turn people away, you know, when they're just starting. What's more is that even though I am recording to external audio right now, there is audio still being recorded on this camera. This is the A6400. And that makes it a bit easier to do syncing later because I can just look at the waveforms, the audio waveforms in my editor and line up all the peaks, and then I know I'm pretty close. But yeah, back then when I was using Davinci 12, when I imported an AVC HD clip, there was no audio waveform. It was completely silent. So yeah, I mean, I had to work around it, and you know, I would do the clapping thing on camera, and I would sync up that noise on the external recorder with just the visual on the video clip, and that's how I sync things. And that was fine. You know, it wasn't the thing that really killed it for me, but it was just one of many inconveniences. Another inconvenience, of course, was that I didn't have an audio recorder like this at the time. So I had to use my iPhone as a recorder. I had an iPhone 6 at the time, and I had a lavalier mic, but you can't just plug a lavalier mic into your iPhone 6 audio jack and expect it to work. It's because the iPhone audio jack is like a TRRS, but it's like a special TRRS and there are different kinds of TRRS where the lead for the microphone input is in a different position. So I had to get an adapter for my iPhone in order to plug in a lavalier mic. What's more was that at the time, Davinci Resolve 12 did not support MP3 audio. I think the iPhone voice memo app recorded in a different format. It wasn't MP3. It might have been M4A or something, but it was one of those compressed formats, and Davinci Resolve did not support it. So you better believe it, I had to add more complications into this workflow. So as a result, I downloaded an app. I forget what it's called. I don't have it anymore, but I had to download another app in order to record audio. And that app allowed me to record in a wave format. So yeah, yet another thing that complicated the whole workflow. There was an alternative, which was to record in MP3 and then convert it to wave afterwards using a different software. And the one that I used was Audacity, which is a free piece of software you can download onto your computer to do the conversion. But again, that's another level of complication in your workflow. You got to record and then convert afterwards. In the same token, it is also possible to record AVC HD files on my Alpha 65 and then convert it into a format recognizable by Davinci Resolve 12. And I did that a few times. So you can record in AVC HD and then use Handbrake to transfer it into like an MPEG file or MOV file or something. I can't remember exactly what I used, but that was a huge deal, because using Handbrake to convert a video file took time. It might take like 5-10 minutes to convert a 5-10 minute clip. So that adds extra, not just complication to your workflow, but also adds time. And that was a big problem. So you can bet I kind of stopped doing that very early on. And I just accepted not having audio. Now, there were circumstances where I couldn't avoid it. You know, when I was doing multicam work, for example, having two camera angles of the same shot typically means that I need scratch audio for both video files in order to sync them up in post. And so again, so in order for Davinci Resolve to be able to sync up the audio and sync up the different camera angles, it had to have audio. And so in those cases, I did still have to churn it through Handbrake in order to change the format so that I could have audio. So talking about multicam clips is kind of a neat segue, because it goes to show that I didn't always use my Sony Alpha 65 exclusively. Sometimes I also used my iPhone for video footage. And therein lies more problems. So the iPhone 6, when you're using the back camera, it'll put out video files that Davinci Resolve 12 had no problems with. So that actually worked great. And if anything, kind of encouraged me to use my iPhone for video more than my Sony Alpha 65. However, that's only if you're using the back camera. You know, if you're recording yourself, chances are I was going to use the front-facing camera. The problem is video files recorded with the front-facing camera did not play well with Davinci Resolve 12. I think it must have been like some kind of variable frame rate type of thing going on. I don't know, but like when you try to play back those video files in Davinci Resolve, the audio and video did not sync up, and it would like go all over the place, speed up, slow down. It was terrible. It was almost unusable. Unless, of course, you ran that video file through Handbrake again. There were a lot of problems with Davinci Resolve 12. You know, if I could summarize, basically, I would have to shoot a video, and I was forced to record audio externally, oftentimes to my iPhone, or I had an iPod at the time, so sometimes I would record to the iPod, which required a separate app, and I may or may not need to convert to a WAV format. And then on top of that, the video files might also need to go through Handbrake for me to use it. And then when I brought it into Resolve, I had to sync up audio with the video, and sometimes multiple camera angles. The workflow was so complicated. Sometimes like you forget one thing, you know, you forget to run the video through Handbrake, and then you're like, oh crap, I gotta do that. And then so run it on Handbrake and while you go off and do something else. It made the process take way too long, and I didn't enjoy it. So while I enjoyed the process of shooting a video, and I enjoyed the end result, you know, having a video that you can share with family and friends, I enjoyed that part. But I really did not enjoy how much work went into preparing stuff for editing and the editing process, let's be honest. But I mean, even today, I'm not a huge fan of doing editing. So anyway, moving on. Because of my difficulties and sort of sour experience working with Davinci Resolve 12, making videos, I kind of stopped doing it for a number of years. that was too bad. I would say that I never really lost the interest in filmmaking because, you know, I was still watching Peter McKinnon videos and Matty Hapuya videos, Potato Jet videos. So I was still very much interested in it, but I didn't feel the motivation to shoot myself. And that went on for a number of years. So fast forward to end of 2018, you know, I was kind of re-inspired or reinvigorated in this whole video making thing through watching, you know, videos by people like Camera Conspiracies and, well, I guess Vegetable Police is the same person, but you know, watching him and Crowley Crew, and to some degree also Potato Jet, having seen some of these YouTubers and seeing that they were able to get tremendous success without, you know, a lot of fancy B-roll and equipment and all that stuff, kind of kind of re-inspired me to start shooting again. And almost by like an accident or something, I thought, you know, why not check out Davinci Resolve again and see if they've updated it and you know, included better support for the video and audio file formats that I actually use. And so at this point, Davinci Resolve was on version 15, and I downloaded the PDF file for all the supported file formats. And lo and behold, I was pleasantly surprised to see that AVC HD was supported and MP3 was supported. And I remember seeing this like kind of in the middle of the night. I was in bed, you know, about to go to sleep, and you know, I was just checking to see if Davinci Resolve got updated, and as soon as I saw that, I was like, holy snap, I gotta check this out. So I got up out of bed and immediately went and downloaded and installed the Davinci Resolve 15 and played around with it in the middle of the night, and I was so happy, I was so overjoyed to see that AVC HD was completely and fully supported. So once that happened and once I saw that, man, I could not wait to get back into video making again. So yeah, so these days I'm making videos on my Alpha 65, though even more recently I picked up the Sony a6400, and so the Alpha 65 has for the most part been retired. I shoot pretty much all my videos on the a6400 when I'm at home, and when I'm out I'll just use my iPhone 10, and I edit on Davinci Resolve 15, and I have absolutely no problems. Everything, all my video and audio formats are fully supported, and it's a joy to bring it in to Resolve and edit them. Well, actually, I shouldn't go that far. Editing is still a pain in the ass. I don't particularly like editing, but it's as painless as it can be. I don't love that I have to optimize the media. I feel like back when I was using DaVinci 12, I didn't optimize media. Using footage off my Sony Alpha 65, I didn't really have to optimize the media. And scrubbing would be decently smooth. I wouldn't say that it was very smooth, but it was workable enough that I could start editing right away. Nowadays, I find that I have to optimize the media. And it's not just because of the higher bit rate with the a6400, because there was a time when before I got this camera that I was still using the Alpha 65. And I felt like I still needed to optimize the media. I don't know. I think the performance got worse with version 15. So I will say that DaVinci Resolve 16 is very interesting to me. It clearly caught my interest. The upgrade from 12 to 15 basically changed everything for me. It changed. I went from not wanting to shoot videos to shooting videos again. So that was huge. That version change was a huge deal for me. And so, of course, I'm excited about version 16. And now, while yes, they've introduced some features that are supposed to help with the turnaround, I must admit, I've watched their promo video, and I'm not sure how much of that I would use. I don't know that using the cut page will improve my workflow substantially. So I'm a little bit disappointed in that. What I was hoping for was for them to announce some kind of performance upgrade that'll really make it possible for me to edit without optimizing media. However, I did not see that announced, and so I don't think it's a feature. They would definitely announce it if it were. But anyway, we'll see. I haven't downloaded it yet, and I probably will hold off for a little while. But I'll keep you guys updated. I figured that I would use this opportunity, this announcement, to talk about my past experiences with Davinci Resolve. So that's it, okay, and I'll see you in the next one. And for those who care, I am shooting on my A6400 picture profile 1, which is Cine 2 and Pro Color. I'm shooting 30 frames a second, 1080p. Rue, you're on camera. Rue. All right, that's it.